front of the other leg, or I am going to show you square pose. That's when the knees come in a little closer and your feet, well, your knees land on top of your feet. And I'll move back just a little bit so you can see that. So your knees have to come in a little bit closer in. And there's a sense of organization, sense of order, and symmetry and balance. And as you find a good, stable, balanced seat, that can have a lot of impact on the emotions, on the energies in the body. And that might help you find your presence for your practice. Maybe close the eyes. Keep them open if you prefer. Spend about a minute in quiet. Breathing in and out through the nose. Continue to root, connect with the earth as you rise up from it. As you're ready, if you close your eyes, glide them back open. Excuse me. And we'll start our practice with some alternate nostril breathing. And you might need to blow your nose before we do this. A little bit easier, but not completely necessary. And make sure that you've got a good, strong seat, and use whatever hand feels right for you. I'm left-handed, I'm going to use my left hand. I'm going to make a U with my thumb and my forefinger, and I'll use one finger for each nostril, or you can take your index and your middle finger and connect them together and put them on top of your nose, and then your thumb and your pinky can be the nostril closers. And some people prefer that method because it gives you a little bit more support. I like this method. So you figure out which method you want and change your seat if you need to, and sit up nice and tall, find a sense of presence, and then close the right nostril and breathe in through the left nostril, and then close it and open the right and breathe out through the right. Then breathe in through the right, close it, open the left, and breathe out through the left. Breathe in through the left, close it, open the right, and exhale. Inhale through the right, close it, exhale through the left. Keep going. Inhale left, close, open right, and exhale. When you're ready, inhale through that one, close it, and open the left one. Keep going. We'll go for about a minute. I'm going to bring my hand down, but you continue to work through this. And as you continue the breathing, notice perhaps with each and every inhale, you're starting to breathe a little bit more deeply, and you're taking in longer inhales and taking longer to exhale. And that's very important. Make sure you completely exhale before you close that nostril and inhale through it. Excuse me, before you exhale through it and then inhale. Close it after you inhale. So in other words, completely exhale, giving you a little bit more room to inhale. And we'll go about 5 more of these. I'll join you again. Eyes could be open or closed. And you decide when you're ready to finish up. Do you want to finish on an inhale and exhale through both? Or do you want to exhale through that nose and then the one nostril and bring the hand down? And once you finish, hands on the knees, take a few breaths to let the effects register. How did that make you feel? That brings a sense of unity to the two halves of the brain. Left brain is more logical, right brain more creative. Sometimes as we age, especially, the communication between the two halves break down, and that can help you bring those two together. And also help with some deep breathing, and help you with any allergies that you might be suffering from. So now let's come into a butterfly pose, which is also called Cobbler Pose. Bring the feet together in the front and hook up the heels and the balls of the big and little toes. And once they're connected, feel their connection to the earth. And your sits bones, draw the belly in, lift the heart, put your hands wherever you like. And if your knees are sending you a negative message, feel free to put your blocks under your knees. Stay here a few breaths. And if you need a little bit of movement, oh, let's do this. Let's all do this. I've never done hip circles in cobbler/butterfly pose. Ooh, this feels nice. Serendipity, I love it. Yoga is so organic, constantly changing. Nothing is ever permanent, not even your plans. Let's shift and go the other way. Feel the connection between the 2 feet, and the feet and the floor, sits bones in the floor. This is also very good for the brain, right side of the body going to the left and vice versa. And we're constantly crossing the midline as we go round and round. Let's make the circles a little smaller and come back to stillness as you're ready. Take a few breaths. Make any changes or shifts that you would like to. And then from here, we'll do a forward fold. And we won't go very far because it's pretty early in the practice. Make sure your foundation is there for you. And take a few breaths. And as you're ready, use an inhale to lengthen your spine and press into the foundation. Exhale as you hinge forward. And take it slow. Avoid rushing. Bit by bit. Let stability guide you and comfort kind of creep in. And when you're ready, you can drop the head and spend a few breaths with the head dropped. This can be very good for the sinus passages to drop that head. reverses the flow and the drain. Just talked about that earlier. Lift up when you're ready. And then come on back. And then let's extend the legs. Shake them out. Kind of slap them up against the floor some. Backs of the thighs and the calves. And then as you're ready, cease that and then start to tap your legs. Up and down. Insides. Tops of the legs, the outsides. Go back and forth a few times. Up and down, up and down. Springtime, we get out there and do a little bit more on our legs, gardening and yard work. This could stimulate some flow and some circulation in those legs. And we'll do the same thing with our feet. Now, last week we did a foot massage. This week we'll do some sole tapping. So start with whatever foot makes sense for you. And you can always put that block under your knee for some support. And then take the opposite hand and make a fist with it, thumb on the inside. And we use the outside, the pinky part. And we'll start to tap the sole of the foot. And go all over the whole sole, and start gentle, and then start to go a little more vigorous, emphatic. We talked last week about how the Chinese believe that the feet are the second soul, or excuse me, say my words, the second heart. This adds a lot of circulation and flow to our entire body. And notice, are you starting to feel, I'm starting to feel kind of flustered. The lights are getting brighter. Fluster was not the right word. I'm starting to feel more energy. And we'll slow that down. We'll, with that, take a few breaths. Effects register. And then we'll extend that leg, shake them out, and we'll do the other side. And I like to use the opposite hand to tap on that foot, and that brings our two sides working together in unity. But if it's more comfortable for you to use the same side hand, you can do that. And try to keep your body straight. So try not to lean over to that foot that you're tapping. Try to stay in the middle. And the head lifted, and the heart lifted, and the breathing constant. Gentle, smooth, but deep inhales. Gentle, smooth, but long exhales. Notice if the experience is different on this side. Start to make it a little bit more gentle. You can stop altogether. Feel the tingling in the foot. Can you feel it going up the leg all the way up into your brain? That's very stimulating for the brain. Even more so, I think, than the massage. Let's shake it out. And then let's do this. Let's lie on our backs. I'm going to show you a sequence that I don't believe we've ever done in this class. They're called pick-me-ups. And you lie on your back with the knees bent, feet on the floor. And when I first described this and you first start it, you might think, oh, this is really tough, but see if you can keep up with it. Try to bring the feet as close to the body as possible and see if you can touch the feet and the ankles and actually hug onto them. And if you can't, you can keep your hands on the floor near them. But if you make contact with the feet, that can give you more leverage And then what we'll do is we'll lift the hips up just a little bit and back down. And as we come down, we don't let them come all the way down to the floor. And we keep going, lifting and lowering. It's kind of like a pumping action. And you inhale as you lift and you exhale as you lower. And you keep going and keep the feet nice and even. And I'm going to start to pick up my pace. I'm going to pick up my breath. I'm going to inhale through the nose as I lift. I'm going to exhale through the mouth as I come down. And then I'm going to slow down with my breath, because I can only do about 10 seconds of that, maybe a little bit more. It depends on where I am. Sometimes I try it again. And if you get tired, try not to stop. Just slow it down. Go real quiet. We'll keep it up for about maybe 10 more seconds. These are called pick-me-ups, and they stimulate your second and your third chakras, your change chakra, your determination and courage chakra. And then slow it down, tiny ones towards the end. Real gentle, gentle with the breath, gentle with the range of motion, until you finally set the hips all the way down on the floor. And release the feet. Try to keep the feet right where they are. Try to stay right where you are for a moment or two before you change anything in the legs. Let everything creep in. Any residual effects. And then as you're ready, let's do some windshield wipers. Go ahead and bring the feet out a little bit and maybe go a little wider and bring the knees from side to side. And this can help us release the muscles, the joints. Let's do some head rolls. I'm rolling my head in opposite direction. Go a few more rounds. And then come back to center. Pick-me-ups, those bring a lot of energy. So if you're tired and you have to face a big task, you might want to lie on the floor and do a few of those, and you'll find that energy that you need. Hopefully. Okay, let's make our way to table pose. Slowly but surely, quietly, come to your side for a breath or two before you lift up into your table. And I tell you what, let's grab our blocks and let's face the long side of the mat. And your knees and feet can be on the mat, but the blocks on the floor there. And we'll go into a cat lunge. And that's wherein we bring the right foot out to the side. And the toes are pointing towards the short side, but you're looking towards the long side. Cat lunge. And then from here, we'll turn this into a half squat. So to go into a half squat, you start to heel toe that foot forward towards the hand and the block on the same side. So the right foot creeps towards the right hand and block into a squat. And as you come forward, you might need to bring your foot in a little bit or out a little bit. You decide. And then we'll do some hip circles from this position. Go round and round. This is really good for the hips. Keep your head and neck neutral. Make sure you're looking at the floor so you don't bring tension to the neck and the shoulders. And when you're ready, reverse directions. We'll go a few more rotations. When you're ready, come back to stillness. Weight on the blocks is even the whole time. Walk that foot back, and as you walk that foot back out, straighten it out so you end up in gateway legs. So now your foot is in line with your knee. And the foot is pointing towards the long side of the mat now. We're making our way to a gateway position. Eventually, start to rise up with those blocks and come all the way up. We've been here before. We'll spend a few breaths assimilating and organizing our structure. Draw the belly in, lift the heart, find the torso start to expand. And then as you're ready, use an inhale to lift the arms overhead and use an exhale to bring the right hand down. This is like our paint the rainbows. And we'll spend a few more breaths stabilizing and equalizing things. And when you're ready, reach towards the sky with an inhale and exhale, curve over towards that straight leg. But keeping that knee soft. Don't lock the straight leg knee. Slowly build your curve here. Not collapsing into our curve, slowly building it with the spine, not the neck and the head. Come back when you're ready and lower that arm. And then let's do something a little different. Bring the block, one block to the left side and organize that. And then we'll do the same thing on the right. So keep things good and stable. Use an inhale to lift and exhale to bring the left hand down to the block. Settle into that stability. Use an inhale to lift and exhale to curve. A reverse gateway here. Again, we're keeping the knee soft of the right leg, keeping all the shoulders or all the arm joints soft. Slowly curving. Nice for the spine here. When you're ready, let's come on back to center. Lower that arm. And then let's make our way back to table. So I like to come down on the blocks before I bring that leg in. Shake it out a little, and we'll do the same thing on the left. Now make sure you have enough room for your foot and your leg on the left side. When you're ready, we'll first go into our cat lunge on the left. Foot's out to the side, pointing towards the short side. And then when you're ready, heel toe that foot forward to the same side hand, turning it into a half squat. And figure out where the foot wants to be to allow you to start your hip circles. Go in one direction. We'll circle about 10 times. Make sure you're looking at the floor right in between the blocks, that you're not looking ahead, because that will put strain to that neck. Add strain to the shoulders and can affect the head and brain. We'll reverse the circles after you've done about 10. We'll do about the same amount the other direction. Keep the weight on the blocks even. Joints soft. Come back to stillness as you're ready. And then as you're ready, walk it back. Straighten that leg up. Point the toe to the long side. Line it up with your knee. Take your time coming up. On this side is harder for me, because this hip has been, boy, really mad at me. So take your time. Persevere and find out what's going to work for you. And then when you're ready, we'll do our gateway position. Stabilize things, draw the belly in. Lift up with an inhale. Exhale the left hand down. Settle into that foundation. Slowly build your curve on this side. Been here once, but our leg was different. Curve to the side, so see what it feels like. This is gateway pose. And as you're ready, press into the foundation evenly to come back. So pressure even on the foot and the knee as you come back. And that helps you keep those hips even. And as you bring the hand down, take one of the blocks, set it up near the knee. Stabilize things. Use an inhale to lift. And an exhale to lower the right hand, excuse me. And reach up with the left and start to curve over. Reversing your gateway here. Try to keep the foot of the long leg and the knee of the bent leg, keep that weight even as much as you can. Back when you're ready. Lower it as you're ready. When you're ready, make your way back to another table pose with your blocks. Take your time, shake out the hips, and then let's set the blocks aside. And then turn to face the short side. Find the length of the mat that you'll need to accommodate you into a downward facing dog. And we'll go up into a very light, gentle, easy downward facing dog. And we'll use it as our conduit to get our weight into a standing position. So we just talked about how dogs are in inversion and your head is down. So this is really good for sinus issues. If you're having allergy problems, I would highly suggest doing lots of downward facing dogs and breathe deeply through those dogs, reversing the flow. And sometimes, that can be hard to do a dog if your head hurts. So I understand that that might not always be an option. You could do a gentle dog. And make your way to to a forward fold. And slowly but surely make your way up to a standing position. Using patience, using structure, using the stability and the breath. It's easier on the nervous system. And now that we're up, let's face the device and bring your feet a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. And then find the three corners of your feet, the heels, the balls of the big and little toes, and root into them evenly. Lift the toes and widen them and put them down, and do that a few times. Wake up the joints, your feet. And then bring the toes back down. And then we'll do something called grounding, and that's simply bending and straightening the knees back and forth, kind of like a bouncing action. Keep the feet evenly rooted as you do this. Belly drawn, heart lifted. And it's just a gentle lifting or bending and straightening. We're not even really fully straightening. The knees are always bent. This can help us really get connected to the earth. If you ever feel lightheaded or dizzy or like, your head's in the clouds, this might help. We'll do a couple more breaths of this. Belly drawn, heart lifted, so you don't want to slump into it. That'll hurt that back. And then we'll come back to stillness, straighten the legs, and let's heel toe back into mountain pose. Not a long trip, probably. Even the feet, even the legs, soften the knees, belly drawn, heart lifted, shoulders relax as the neck lengthens and the crown of the head reaches for the ceiling. Let's take 5 breaths in our mountain pose. 1, Nice, long, gentle inhales and exhales. And you keep your body still. You keep your mind still. And stick with it. It's a challenge to stay still, but not rigid. For 5 whole breaths. That might mean a whole minute, depending on how long your breaths are. When I started yoga, I would take about 15 breaths per second. Now I'm down to about 8 or 9. And that has tremendous benefits for those of us who are suffering from allergies. Lengthen, deepen your inhales, lengthen, and really let go of all that breath. And we'll be visiting these ideas for the month of April. So now let's do some maypoles. Bring your feet, heel toe out a little bit wider than they were before. Find your 3 corners, belly drawn, heart lifted, arms by the sides. And then we'll start to twist gently from side to side. And the arms kind of follow suit. And keep going. And see if you can deepen your twist. And as you deepen your twist, your arms probably want to start to come up higher and higher. And we'll eventually make our way as high as we can with those arms. Maypoles. Our arms are the ribbons, fluttering in the wind. Maybe you can even feel a breeze. Keep the feet equally rooted. Keep the knees equally soft. Start to make your way back down. When you're ready, slowly but surely. Nice, gentle twisting. Going back and forth from left to right, crossing the midline again. Mental clarity, focus, alertness, mindfulness. Back where we started. Keep the feet wide, keep them equally rooted. Lift the shoulders towards the ears, squeeze the spine in the back and bring them down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, squeeze them down. Let's do 3 more. Feet even the whole time. Knees soft. Let's reverse. Doing a lot of right and left. Do front and back. Make the changes there. Back to stillness as you're ready. And then let's heel toe the feet in a little. Back to mountain. Let's march it out. Let's do some grounding with the feet really close together. Maybe even touching. Maybe. Ooh, that's kind of neat. Really narrows your center of gravity. That might make you feel a little unwieldy, but once you get it, it works. And then we can cease that and come back to mountain, and we'll do a chair and forward fold sequence. And you might want to take your block and put your block on the floor in front of the feet. And when you're ready, draw the belly in, lift the heart in our mountain pose. And when you're ready, use an inhale to lift the arms and exhale into your first chair pose. Bend the knees, press into the floor with the feet. Hips are hinging. Maybe you want to bend the elbows and come into that cactus version that we've been doing. You decide. When you're ready, use an inhale to straighten up and swan dive down into a forward fold. Maybe you stop at the halfway position, like I am now, hands on blocks or knees or legs. Maybe you can come all the way down. And again, like downward facing dog, this is an inversion. Head is down, lower than the heart. That's reversing the flow of our passages, our sinus passages. And if that's hard on the head, because that can be tough, you could always lift up to that halfway position. Head higher than the heart can take care of that dizziness you might be feeling. Use an inhale when you're ready to come up evenly. And use an exhale to bring the hands back in front of the heart. And release as you're ready. Take just a few breaths. Shift the pose if you need to. A couple of breaths to register the effects. When you're ready, when your foundation is strong, use an inhale to lift and an exhale to bend and hinge. Maybe go a little further. Maybe change the arms. If you want motion, you can go back and forth with the arms. So staying still is tough for you. You could put motion in things like we've done. When we're ready, we can come back up and we'll go right into another forward fold, slowly but surely, building our pose step by step. I love to stop off in the halfway position for a couple of breaths. That helps me calm down, helps me physically as well as energetically. So sometimes I get dizzy if I come all the way down. Stopping off in that halfway mark helps me. Come up as you're ready. Slowly float the arms back down in front of the heart. Stay there for a breath or two before you release the hands. And stay there a breath or two. And notice, okay, do you need to change anything? That's the time to do it. We'll do one more. Stabilize. Make your way into your next chair. What version do you want? What do you want to do here? You keep it even and safe. Can you keep it even and slow and safe as you lift up and make your way into a final half or full forward fold? You decide. Maybe both. That forward fold, really good. That head and brain. Slowly lift up with your breath. That's a big change. Breath can help us. Startling effects. Let's do a little bit of picking up of the feet. And when you're ready, do some grounding. And you can go wide with the feet or you can keep them close. You decide where do you want those feet to revisit your grounding. And come back to stillness when you're ready. And then build a mountain pose. Feet are hip width distance apart, under the knees, knees under the hips, hips under the shoulders. Find those two parallel lines. Root into the feet evenly. Soften your knees. Belly drawn, heart and ribs lifting away from the hips. Shoulders soft. Neck lengthening. Crown of the head reaching for the ceiling. Stay here for a few more breaths. Now we'll get ready to come back down. So this last part, you need the blankets, maybe one blanket and one cushion, maybe two blankets, and then a block or two. If you have two blocks, have them both. Let's turn to face the short side again, and let's use a many sun salutation to make our way down, and hands find the blocks, and then either step the feet back into a dog or maybe just bring the knees down. And if you'd like to spend some time in your downward facing dog, you can do that. And eventually we'll make our way down into a table. And we'll spend about the next 10 breaths or so. So I'll give those of you who want to experience a dog again, plenty of time to play with that. Again, really good for both the brain and the lungs. Once you're back in table, do whatever you like in your table. Maybe turn that into a child's pose, or maybe you'd like to stay up on your table for a few. Maybe you want to do some cats and cows. Maybe you want to do some crescent moons and turn and look over each shoulder. See if you can see those hips as they come out. And this next pose, I've never shown you before. It's called frog pose. And we'll get the blocks out of the way, but we'll need them again soon. So don't let them go too far. Don't throw them into the next room. Okay, so let's get our blanket or cushion or whatever you have that's soft that can give your head some support. And bring your hands in front of that blanket. So it's blanket is behind those hands. And then find your tripod structure in the back. Knees wide, feet together. And put the toes so they're standing up on the floor. Don't put the tops of the floor down, but toes are on the floor. So you're building yourself a nice little foundation. And then to make our frog pose, we'll press into the floor with the hands and the knees and bring the hips back. And as you bring the hips back, you might want to walk the hands forward a little, and then you eventually put the head down on that blanket. So your hips are in the air, and the wider your knees, the wider you can get those hips. And if you're wearing glasses, that might be tough. And you might need to lift up again and move the blanket around. Maybe you need the blanket to be higher. You decide. Frog pose. And as the head is on the blanket, make sure that you're not putting your head at an angle. You want the head to be in line with the spine. So the section between the top of my forehead and the crown of my head are on the floor or on the blanket. So not the forehead, because that angles it, and not the back of the head. Stay here for 5 more breaths. Release into the structure of your pose with that breath. Let go of tension, especially in the hips, the knees, the shoulders, back is lengthening. This is really good for the upper back. You can feel it more in the upper back than I think in child's pose. And Come up whenever you're ready, slowly but surely, quietly, carefully, using your breath. Let me check our time. We've got 15 more minutes. Our next pose is supported bridge, which we've done many times, but we're doing a different version. So when you're ready, sit down on the floor on your on your mat here. And what we need are 2 blocks. 1 block for your sacrum, the way we usually do our supported bridge, and 1 block for your feet. So put 1 block down at the end of your mat, and it'll be there, and you'll see what I mean. And then have a blanket or 2 on reserve at the head. And then what we'll do, I'll show you. So if you want to know what we're doing before you go into it, you can give me just a moment where we'll put our block under the sacrum, and then hands can go overhead and the blankets can be there. Or maybe you want to put a blanket under the head as well as the arms. And then we stretch the legs out and the feet land on the block. So we're in a supported bridge with our legs extended. Oh, I love this pose. Take your time settling into it. And if there's any wonkiness on your lower back, you can always go into a regular supported bridge and bend the knees. So that can be kind of tough to have those legs long. You decide. We'll stay here for a few breaths. We're recording this session, so you can always come back and refer to this again. So you don't have to find perfection today. You can work on this pose. I'll show you a different version. I put a little bit more support. I put a blanket for my torso, and my head is on the floor, or maybe that other blanket in the back. And then when I lift up and put the block under my sacrum, the blanket's in my way. So I roll the blanket up a little bit, and that gives me support for my lower back. And that can make it easier to straighten those legs out. But you might not have enough blankets with you today for that. But just know that that's perhaps a version you can explore another day. And I love the arms being in the back there. That brings a sense of openness. And you can even bring the arms wide, kind of like a supported fish. Stay here for just a few more breaths. So settle into your stability. Release into it. Take a few breaths. Experiencing the pose. Does the breath and stillness and focus allow you to truly release? I just felt tension in my hips and my upper thighs, and I just let go. And that makes the pose more luxurious for me. Classic yin style pose here. When you're ready, let's bend the knees again, one at a time. Feet on the floor. And then when you're ready, bring the arms down if they were overhead or out to the sides there. And And when you're ready, lift the hip up off the blocks, hips off the block. Reverse my S there. And then come to one side, and you might want to bring your arms overhead again to do that. Lift up just enough to set up for our final pose, supported fish. And we'll do our Shavasana and our supported fish. Now, if you don't like supported fish, you don't have to do it. You could always just go straight into your Shavasana. So you might want to do a little bit of movement and then lie back and settle into your Shavasana. Those of you who are doing supported fish, we use that blanket and it's across the mat and you lie back on the blanket so the shoulder blades are on the blanket. And the arms are on the floor behind the blanket. So our head is not on the blanket, nor are our arms, just the shoulder blades. And that gives a slight lift to the chest. Supported fish pose. And perhaps that blanket, your second blanket is still back there. You could always, if this is too much for your head, you can lift your head up a little bit and put your head on the blanket. Because you want to be looking at the ceiling or maybe slightly above. You don't want to be looking at the wall behind you because that's too much strain on your neck. And your arms are out wide. And if you like, you can keep the knees bent, but perhaps straighten those legs again. And I like to bring the feet kind of wide. You can keep the feet together. Supported fish. And this is another really good pose for instilling openness and expansion in the chest and the lungs. And it's a slight back bend and inversion because our heart is a little higher than the head. So that brings fresh oxygenated blood to the brain. And it instills deep, full capacity breathing. Continue to hold the pose. Let's go about another 2 minutes here. Eyes can be open or closed. Hands can be open, facing the ceiling, receiving energy. Hands can be face down, further stabilizing and rooting. You could try both. Few breaths in one and a few breaths in the other. Slowly begin to deepen your inhales Lengthen your exhales and bring yourself back to your surroundings and note what's going on around you. Try to keep the eyes still closed. Start to bring gentle movement. And then slowly but surely bend the knees. And then lift the hips up and see if you can kind of scooch that blanket out from under your shoulder blades. And then bring it down beyond the hips. And you can lay the hips back down. And then you can extend the legs back out. And then the blanket is there for your knees. So I still have my support under my head, and I've got a support under my knees. Supported Shavasana here. Take a few moments wriggling in and release the weight, the shape of your body. When you're ready, draw your awareness to your breathing. As you're ready, slowly deepen your inhales, lengthen your exhales. Start to bring gentle movement back to the body. Take your time. Try to bend the knees, feet on the floor for a breath or two. Draw the belly in before you bring the arms overhead. If you do that, roll to one side. Stay on one side for a breath or two. Avoid rushing coming out of this pose. Better instilling, maintaining that softness and that stillness. Into a seated position, I'm going back to that square pose. I'm sitting kind of forward, so you might not be able to see. I guess I'll sit back a little bit. So my knees are stacked up on my ankles. And you don't have to do that. You can come in the easy pose. Let's put our hands on our knees, and on your left hand, touch the tips of your thumb and your ring finger, and on your right hand, touch the tips of your thumb and your middle finger. Look at the two, they're different, but they're very similar. Again, this is very clarifying for the two halves of the brain. It's a sense of calmness and stillness to our nervous system. Hold this mudra for a few more breaths. Vayu mudra. It's the breath down to the earth, down into our root chakra. sense of stability, security. Bring our hands to heart center when you're ready. Repeat after me. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. And may all beings be free from suffering. Namaste.